I brought them in from the car.
They were in your car?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Good morning.
You're so far away that it didn't really have an effect.
Oh.
So your big head wasn't in the camera.
Oh, yeah? That's all right.
Good morning, everybody.
So.
It's really far away. Camera.
What is?
Camera.
You want it closer?
Yeah, because I can't see everybody.
You can't see everybody. How about that?
I can't see anybody in the first place.
I know. Good morning. Is that better?
Yeah. But that was dumb. I mean, I can't see anybody.
So, tomorrow, like I said, Soul Riders, it's our cycling group. We go on bicycles. And tomorrow is our kickoff of the year. Every single month up until October, we have a group ride planned. Tomorrow's the kickoff. It's a 50-mile ride. So half a century.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big ride.
Yeah. So, you know, I've been cycling for we've been cycling for a few years. Mm-hmm. And so, like I said, we're real excited as a group of us that are going to go out tomorrow. Actually, I'm probably going to go live a couple times.
I don't get to ride tomorrow. I'm sad.
Yeah, Sharon's not riding tomorrow. Mm. But she will be there, and I think we're going to go live a couple times just so you guys feel like you're included. And I just want to include you guys.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe you care, maybe you don't, but
that'll be cool.
You're gonna watch it anyways.
I can do it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
that'll be fun.
Yeah. So we've been a little busy today. I'm still about to clean up my bike. I gotta make sure I oil the chain. I like the oil to sit in there all night.
I just made some granola bars. Do you guys want to see what they look like?
No, they're not granola. They're oatmeal bars.
Oh, they're oatmeal bars. Excuse me, sir, but they're really cool looking. Let me show you guys what they look like. Look at that. How do you put it? Put it close so they can see.
I don't think.
Oh, yeah, they can. Right there.
It's too bright.
Right there.
Bam.
Bam.
So, they are homemade. We got it a recipe, and Sharon makes it her own from the cycling YouTube page. And it's a lot healthier. There's no preservatives in it. A lot of the stuff we got was organic. The stuff we could get organic. Yeah. And a lot better than the oatmeal bars you buy in packages, because that's all a bunch of stuff in it that you can't even pronounce on the ingredients, you know.
I use a lot of different variety of nuts, and I roast them myself.
And blueberries. Yeah.
Peanut butter.
So I'm really hyped up about this ride, guys. Last time I did the 50 miles, it was really hard for me to finish it. My last 15, 16 miles was really hard, but not tomorrow. I'm ready this time. So, this passage, I don't know, I might end up doing it anyways, but I want to tell you this Bible story. And you know how it's called relevant Bible talk?
Yeah.
I'm not going to make it relevant for you, because I'm going to trust that as I tell this story, the Holy Spirit is going to make it relevant to you. I'm not going to spoon feed it. You're just going to get it. And I'm interested to see how this works out. Because you know how I tell a story and I said, well, this is how you fit into it. I don't want to do that. Because I have a feeling this story is so rich. And you're just going to... It's crazy, because I believe that the Lord, through the Holy Spirit, is going to speak to you out of this story in different ways in your own life without me even telling you. Mm. So it's actually a story you're going to love.
Okay.
The Gospel of Mark.
Mark what?
Well, I'm going to read parts of it, but I'm going to really lay the foundation and tell the story. It's Mark chapter 5. And after we finish, guys... Because like I said, I'm just going to share a lot of this story. I'm not going to really read it, but you should always double check anything anyone teaches you. So we will be reading I mean, we will be studying Mark chapter 5, verses 21 down to
Heck yeah, I'm gonna check everything that you teach me. Just because you're my husband doesn't mean anything.
21 to 34. And
Okay. 5:21 to
yeah,
20.
and I want to set the scenario, guys. I want to set the scenario that by this time Jesus' ministry, he was getting very, very recognized. It was to the point where he couldn't even get some alone time, because every time he went somewhere to pray or to be alone, multitudes of people followed. Because I mean, Jesus was casting demons out, people were being healed, the blind were able to see, the deaf to hear, the paralyzed were getting up and walking. I mean, and then it wasn't just about the miracles. People would say, man, who is this Jesus? He speaks with an authority we've never heard. So he was getting more and more known throughout the land of Israel. And in this story, it introduces a woman, okay? And that I am going to read just a couple verses, which is Mark 5, let's see.
21, you said?
Yeah, but it's not really 20. That's what the story is, but okay, here it is. 25, Mark 5, verse 25. Well, I'll start at 24. It says, so Jesus went, and a great multitude followed him and thronged him, like I was saying. There's a multitude of people. Now, a certain woman had a flow of blood for 12 years and had suffered many things from many physicians. She had spent all that she had and was no better, but rather grew worse. So this woman, you got to understand, in the Jewish culture, it's that she had a flow of blood, meaning she had her menstrual cycle continuously for 12 years. And she would go to doctor after doctor trying to figure out what was wrong with her, and no doctors could help her. And matter of fact, she spent all her money. She might have been well off,
Yeah.
because the very fact that it says that she spent all her money. So she was probably a woman of influence, and no doctor could help her. Now, here's the problem, guys, is that in Jewish culture, according to the laws in the Old Testament, when a woman was at her time, she was considered unclean. Matter of fact, she had to state it. Like if she went to the store and that was going on in her body, she had to say unclean,
Unclean, yeah.
unclean. She had to proclaim it, because if not, she could be stoned to death.
It's so humiliating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So women were just used to this once a month. This woman, 12 years. 12 years. Can you imagine?
Every day, 365 days a year.
Times
Every
12,
day, times 12.
telling everybody that you're unclean.
Wow.
I think that has a psychological effect
Yeah, it does.
on saying, I'm not clean, I'm not worthy, I'm like a leper. And so, again, you got to understand this culture. The very fact that she was unclean, the very fact that she had a flow of blood for 12 years, that also meant that she probably had no husband. Because who would ever marry an unclean woman? And it was probably humiliating. There was no life. Back then women were considered like, you had to have children. If you don't have children, you're not a woman. That's the way it was back then. Like when a woman would have a baby, they would say, oh, you're blessed. The Lord has blessed you because he gave you a child. So here this woman has this issue for 12 years, goes to doctor after doctor, and is broke now. So remember what I said, Jesus, by this time, he was getting very popular. People were like it said here. What did it say? It says, and a great multitude followed him and thronged him. Like they were just all around him. And I love this verse. It says, talking about the woman in 27, when she heard about Jesus, she came behind him in the crowd and touched his garment. I would love to know who preached to her. This woman that was broken, spent all of her money on doctors, doctor after doctor, specialist after specialist, whatever they had back then. But somebody came and said, there's somebody named Jesus. I believe that whoever talked to her about Jesus was so convincing that all of a sudden she saw hope. Because she could have just been like, what can he help me? I've been to the best doctors. Like out here in California, it's like, well, I've been to Stanford. I've been to UCSF. What's the big one in LA? Hospital?
USC and UCLA.
Yeah. So, it's like I've been to the best. But somebody spoke to her about Jesus, probably shared with her the things that Jesus was doing. And she said, it must have sparked something in her to the point where she says, I have to see him. And there had to be a desperation in her.
Yeah.
There had to be a desperation. She says, I don't care if there's 1,000 people around him. I don't care who's around him. I'm going to see him. Because look at this next verse. It says, she said, if only I may touch his clothes, I shall be made well. And then there's another translation. It actually says, if I touch the hem of his garment, like the bottom, the crease of his, right? The hem of his garment.
Just the hem.
Yeah.
The edge.
Yeah, the edge. Like this is on the bottom. See how it doubles over in a sleeve? Mm-hmm. That's the hem. So this woman, she's like, I love this. I love this, the faith of this woman. Because she goes, I don't know how I'm going to get to him. I don't even need him to speak to me. I don't need him to look at me. I don't need him to pray for me. I know that if I just touch his, that's not even saying if I touch his hand or his, like physically touch his hand. She's like, if I just touch the end of his clothes, I know I'll be made well. That's why I'm saying, who talked to her? Yeah. The faith of this woman. And she goes, if only I may touch his clothes, I shall be made well. And immediately, so she goes, I picture this woman crawling through people's legs, pushing people out of the way. I mean, this desperation of nothing is going to stop me from reaching Jesus. No situation is going to stop me from reaching Jesus. Nothing, no bills, no poverty, no riches. Nothing is going to stop me. I am going to reach him, even if I got to crawl to him. And all I need is to touch his garment, and I know I'll be healed. And it's like, so Jesus, there's thousands of people around him. Yeah. But look what happens in 29. So she touches his garment. She actually gets to him. And it says, immediately, the fountain of her blood was dried up. And she felt in her body that she was healed of the affliction. So as soon as she touches his garment, Jesus is thronged, getting touched, pushed, and all these people around him. All of a sudden she touches his garment. She probably thought, Jesus won't even notice. I mean, when you're walking in a crowd of people, like when I see movie stars, and everybody's trying to touch them and this and that. So I imagine she thought, like, I'm gonna touch his garment, I'm gonna go on my way. And I'm going to be made well. He don't even need to talk to me or nothing. But it says here in 30, this is crazy. It says, and Jesus, immediately knowing in himself that power had gone out of him.
Who touched me?
Yeah. Turned around in the crowd and said, who touched my clothes? Man. Oh, there's so much there.
Yeah.
There's so much there. Do you understand that this faith of this woman, see, you want to know how to get God's attention? Then have some faith. This woman had some faith. There's something about the power of God and faith. Like I imagine like when you get a jumper cables and you hit them together.
And then
yeah.
It just like sparks.
Yeah. And it's like one's a positive and one's a negative. And Jesus is the positive, and her affliction and her faith was a negative. And all of a sudden, boom, there's something happens when this woman's faith touches the power of God. Or, and all of a sudden, Jesus, like, boom, he stops. Who touched my clothes? Because I felt power come out of me. And his disciples, they're like, Jesus, everybody's
touching you. Yeah.
Everybody's touching you. What do you mean, who touched you, Jesus? We're in the middle of the multitude of people.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
That there was that one specific touch.
Yeah. And in verse 31, his disciples said to him, you see the multitude thronging you and you say, who touched me? They're just probably like, are you serious, Jesus? Mm-hmm. Are you serious? And he looked around, and Jesus looks. He turns. Immediately he stops and looks around, turns around to see her who had done this thing. I don't think she wanted his attention. I don't think she meant to stop the multitude. I don't think she meant to stop wherever it was Jesus was going. I don't think she meant to stop and be a bother to him. I think she probably, remember, psychologically, I'm unclean. Mm-hmm. I'm not even worthy for Jesus to look at me. I'm not even worthy for him to stop and talk to me.
Yeah,
I just want to touch.
Fearing and trembling.
Yeah.
She was like, oh my God, I hope he doesn't even look at me. Don't even,
Because she was filled with shame.
Filled with shame and condemnation and just all of that. I wouldn't want to be looked at by Jesus. It's like, no, I'd want to cover myself up. I've been dirty all these years,
Yeah. And what does he do? He stops in his tracks.
Yeah.
Stops the multitude. I imagine, like, there's probably heckle loud, and all of a sudden this happened. Boom. Jesus turns around. Who touched me? I imagine everybody was like,
mm-hmm.
All of a sudden,
mosquito.
All of a sudden, Jesus turns around and sees her. It says he looked around to see who had done this thing, but the woman, fearing and trembling, knowing what had happened to her, came and fell down before him and told him the whole truth. I believe that she fell down in shame. I believe she was so embarrassed. Like, how do you tell people that? Like, it'd be different if you have a broken arm, but that's something, to me, I imagine that's a very private issue for a woman.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely,
Especially in a culture where you have to declare you're unclean. Matter of fact.
And in front of people?
Oh my God. You know what I just realized? She went through that crowd without saying she was unclean. Uh-oh. She should have been proclaiming it, but she didn't. Because maybe she even feared that Jesus himself would turn her away.
She wanted just to get to him.
Do you realize that a woman, when she was considered unclean for once a month, wasn't supposed to touch anyone? She couldn't even cook. She couldn't wash clothes.
And how was she going to get through that crowd? How was she even going to get to him if she was to say unclean?
Well,
she wasn't going to be able to get to him.
Actually, she wasn't even supposed to touch Jesus. That's why, because she knew she was unclean, she's like, I can't touch him because I'm unclean. But if I could just touch his clothes.
That's good. That's right.
If I could just touch his clothes, because if I touch him, I'm breaking the law. But if I just touch his clothes and nobody will notice, I know I'm going to be healed. And all of a sudden, Jesus turns around and says, who touched me?
Wow.
And that's why it says here that she was fearing and trembling, because she was breaking the law.
That's why her faith was so much greater.
Yeah.
Because she didn't even mean to touch him. Her intentions were just to touch
his garment.
And that's why her faith was so much greater, because her intent was to never even to touch him.
But remember what she said earlier. She goes, if only I may touch his clothes, I shall be made well. She already spoke that truth.
Yeah.
She already spoke it. And this woman, fearing and trembling, probably afraid to be rejected by Jesus, afraid to be rejected by the crowd. But inside, it says here, she knew that she had been healed. she was no longer unclean. Oh my God, it's so good.
Wow.
She came to Christ unclean and left his presence clean.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
So she shares the whole story with Jesus, not knowing what's going to happen. Maybe, is he going to reject me? And look what he says to her. He says, daughter. That's how he addressed her. Daughter. I mean, like in Spanish, like my daughters, I call them mija. How you doing, mija? Mija is a term of endearment for daughter in Spanish, right?
Yeah.
It's in Spanish. If you know Spanish, it's a
Mija or hija.
yeah. It's to me. Some words don't translate well into English, but when I call my daughter mija, it's not just saying daughter. It's well, I don't know how do you describe it? You're a woman. What's the best way to describe
Terms of endearment.
a term of endearment, right?
Yeah. It's just a it's a loving way of addressing your
daughter.
Your children, yeah, your daughter, your child, your
And
daughter.
the same thing with my son. I call my son mijo.
Mijo, yeah.
And I believe, I don't know how, the Greek language, but right here it says, and he says to her daughter, I believe in that language, it was a term of endearment. It was a beautiful way for him to address her. Oh man, I'm going to sneeze on a video. So he says, daughter, your faith has made you well. So,
It just it takes me back so much to the time that I came to know the Lord. And and I know I touched a little bit in regards to that, because I was 17 and a half when I came to Christ, and I came so broken. I was 14 years old when I had my first child, and then I was 16 when I had my second child, and I had already gone through so much abuse and so much sexual abuse, and had been raped, and I had gone through so much stuff in my life already by that age. And I came with so much shame, and I had come so broken. And I almost feel like I came like that woman, with shame. And I almost feel like I never wanted to leave. I think that's why I felt like it was like a place of refuge, because I never wanted to leave that church hardly, almost.
yeah.
Because I felt like that was my place of comfort,
I'm trying not to sneeze. I'm sorry.
Sneeze.
It won't come out.
Sneeze.
I can't.
So, it just always felt like a place of comfort for me, because going out into the world was hard for me, like, being out. So it just, I don't know, it just became that one place. And I think that's why I just stayed so close to God, and I got so comfortable.
Yeah.
Because I felt safe. But I know what it's like to want to just grab a hold of the hem.
Yeah.
And just touch the hem of his garment and just say, Lord, heal me from all this pain, from everything.
What's crazy is she didn't even say heal me. She just says, I know if I touch him, I'll be healed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it comes down to, I've said this, I said, you can never have a true encounter with Christ without something happening in your life.
Yeah.
It's impossible. So he says, daughter, your faith has made you well. And then he says, go in peace and be healed of your affliction. And she was healed. But I love the fact that Jesus says, your faith is what made you well.
Yeah.
And like I said in the beginning, I wasn't going to make this relevant to you. What I actually want you to do is I want you to write a comment on how this is relevant to you. You tell us, how is this story relevant? We want to hear your story.
Yeah.
Your story needs to be shared. So as you heard this story, comment. How is it relevant to you? And I have a feeling that, watch, and you're going to see how the Holy Ghost moves. Because each of you, even though you're hearing the same story, God was speaking to you in different ways pertaining to your life, relevant to your life. And I want to hear it.
Yeah. And I think that we've been able to share a little bit about our lives, like people know a little bit about your life and how things have been relevant in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys have gotten to know me a little bit, and like just right now I've been able to share a little bit how it was relevant in my life. So it would be really nice to hear how this is relevant in your life.
Yeah. It says, we call it relevant Bible talk.
Yeah.
So we want the relevancy to go both ways, guys. So share with us, please.
I think it's important because I think it's important because at the same time, it allows you to start realizing what your testimony is about. Mm-hmm. And as you start to speak your testimony, you're starting to now share your testimony, and what that does, it allows you to speak, about your life, and what comes forth from your life, it's what manifests as well, and the things you're starting to speak, the things that took place in your life, and it becomes your testimony, and your testimony is what others are gonna is what's gonna save them. It's what salvation is gonna come forth, to help them in their lives. So I just pray that you're able to share that with us so that others can also be saved through your testimony.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what I was going to say is there are people out in the world that are never going to be reached for Jesus unless you reach them, because they need to hear your story. There is somebody that's going to read these comments that needs to read what happened in your life, because they could be going through the same thing. That's why we share. That's why our testimonies are so powerful. You don't have to know the Bible left and right, but you know what you got to know is what has God done in your life. And you share that, and that is more powerful than you could imagine, because your story will shake other people's lives.
I've been seeing some of the comments that people have left that are familiar with the things that you've gone through in your life, and everything. And I started to think, well, I know that if I share some of the things that I go through too, and I started to notice that I'm talking now to people, to women who have gone through the things that I've gone through in my life, and there's women that have actually gone through that, and I've been able to now share with those women some of those things. And it's important, because how would they have known that?
Mm-hmm.
And how can I speak life into them if I wouldn't have ever shared that? So it is important that we share our testimonies, because they will never know that. Mm-hmm. They won't.
Yeah.
So I think it's a beautiful thing for us to share our testimony.
Amen.
Yeah.
All right. This is our longest video ever, 29 minutes. And but I appreciate it. Hey, it's Saturday, guys. You don't got to hurry to work. So it's okay that we took 29 of your minutes.
And if Gabe's doing exercise, then so be it.
But you might get sporadic lives throughout today from our bike ride, because I'm just really excited. So I want to share it with you guys. So, all right, guys. I'll introduce you to actually some of the other guys and the women in the group also. So that, I don't know. I'm just excited about it. So, all right, guys, have a good morning, good day, and I'll see you later. You'll see us later today.
Yes.
God
Bye,
bless.
guys.